Mr. Seahorse by Carle. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist, this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. "Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse and swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse and swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted, this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse. "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." The end.
Please subscribe.
Today we're going to use a lot of supplies to make our collage. A glue stick, 2 paint pens, some blue circles, and some pieces that I have cut out from painted paper that we'll put together like a puzzle to make a seahorse. We're going to start with our light blue piece of paper, and of course you're going to write your name the best that you can. If you need help, raise your hand and I can come help you write your name. Once we get that done, you're going to give me a thumbs up and turn your paper over to the other side. Now, let's look at these pieces and see if we can figure out what's going to be the head, the body, and the tail. That's right, this one is the head. So find that shape. You're going to turn it over to where you can't see the decorated side and add some glue with your glue stick. Now, we're going to turn it back over and place it onto your blue paper towards the top. You want to rub it with your hand really well to make sure that it sticks. Now we're going to grab the white paint pen and we're going to make a circle and then color it in for the eye. And we're going to let this dry while we finish the rest of our collage. And then we're going to use a black paint pen to create the inside of the eye. All right, give me a thumbs up when you have got that done. Now we're going to take the body part, that's step 2. We're going to flip it over to where you can't see the pretty painted side. Put some glue on with your glue stick. And then match it up like puzzle pieces to the bottom of the head. And it's okay if you lay it a little bit on top of the head there. And then just rub again your piece down to your piece of paper. Press it down so you get it put on smoothly. You might need a little glue again on the edges. So just lift up the edges and put a little glue down and then press it down again. Now, step 3 is to take the tail of our seahorse. We're going to put some glue on that and add it to the end of our seahorse's body. Look how colorful our seahorse looks, just like Eric Carle's illustrations in Mr. Seahorse. I love how colorful these are. I bet you love it too. We're going to get out the blue circles, and these are going to be water bubbles for showing that our seahorse is living underwater. You can place them wherever you would like. You're just going to, again, take your glue stick, put a little bit of glue, and then put your circles down where you want them to be. You could put them all in one place. I'm spreading mine out across my paper. You could even put 2 in one part and 1 on another side. Whatever you want to do, you are the artist. Now we're going to take our white paint pen again and we're going to trace around the outside of the circles and then a little line at the top to look like the light shining. And this just gives people who are looking at our artwork the knowledge that these aren't just blue circles, but they're actually bubbles because our seahorse is underwater. Once we finish that, we're going to get out our black paint pen. You're going to add in some lines around the outside to outline your seahorse. This just adds a line of what we call contrast, and it helps your seahorse stand out. And you're just going to trace around the outside. Now, we're not going to trace each piece. We want that to look like one whole body, but we do want to trace around the outside, We want a nice, smooth, thick line. So if your pen isn't working in a spot, you might have to just go back over it. I'm retracing mine one more time just to get a thicker line in some of the places. Now I'm adding some details to make it look a little more like a seahorse. I'm using lines on the back fin and lines to make the little belly like Mr. Seahorse had in the story. Now I'm going to use a line to start to define my eye area on my seahorse.
I just want you to make some more reddish
painted paper like you started yesterday. And then I'm going to color in my black dot. If you want to make yours a Mrs. Seahorse instead of a Mr. Seahorse, you could draw some eyelashes on it. I'm going to go to the edge of the nose there and draw a little line for the seahorse. And then I'm going to add a little side fin using 3 straight lines and then a curly line for the bottom of the fin. And that is my Mr. Seahorse collage.